You are also saying, my story is more worth someone else's time than what they would otherwise be doing. It's called opportunity cost in economics, right? So you're basically saying, instead of reading Hamlet, check out this story I wrote. Right? That's a bold statement, man. Like, what kind of crazy person thinks that this would be a better way to spend? There are already a ton of good books for people to read. Like, a ton. Like, if you've ever been in a bookstore, and if you haven't, go quickly while they still exist. You've seen that those bookstores have a lot of books in them. A lot. And it takes a kind of bold egotism to walk into that bookstore and say, I think there's room for one more, you know? And the idea that someone else, so you are asking someone to do something pretty extraordinary when you're asking them to read, because you're asking them to take you seriously and to give you their time. And I would argue that you owe them, as a reader, you owe that reader the responsibility of giving your all to writing a story for them. Not for you, but writing a story for them. And that means that you have to be able to imagine what it's like to be them, which, if you've ever seen, how many of you have ever met me before? A couple? So you know that I'm obsessed with this idea of imagining people complexly, and I won't ever shut up about it, and I'm sorry to all of you who've heard me say this before. It's really easy for me to imagine myself complexly because I'm inside of my own head and I'm this fascinating character and I am both beautiful and ugly and fat and skinny and like, I am all things because, as Walt Whitman wrote in Song of Myself, I contain multitudes, right? When you think about yourself, you're thinking about this really complex individual. And when you think about other people, you think about them very one-dimensionally. Like, that guy sucks, or that girl is hot, or, you know, this person is my enemy. And that's it. Like, you're able to think about yourself much more complexly, particularly in high school, but also as you get older. Adults like to think that this problem goes away. It doesn't go away. It just gets kind of sublimated. So you're always able to think of yourself more complexly than you're able to think of other people. The challenge of being a writer is that you have to imagine not only what it's like to be the characters in your story, but what it's like to be the dude who you are, or dudette, who you are asking to spend however many minutes or hours reading this story that they could otherwise be spending doing something that would be quote-unquote fun. So I think that tension between this act of egotism of walking into a bookstore and saying, I belong here too, and the tension of wanting to make a gift is reflected kind of in the life of the writer in that way that I talked about earlier, where sometimes we think that we're geniuses and sometimes we think that we're terrible, which is why we press stories into people's hands, but then say, oh, but it's not that good, it's just the first draft, no big deal. Okay, one more thing. I think that stories are better when the people in those stories want something, or someone, or anything. Kurt Vonnegut tells a story about how his favorite short story at the entire Iowa Writers' Workshop one year was about this nun who had a piece of chicken stuck in her teeth and was just desperately trying to find an instrument in the nunnery with which she could remove this piece of chicken. And that was the whole story. And then she did, you know, in some clever way. They didn't have any toothpicks, I don't know. I've never been in a, I actually have, now that I think about it, because my great aunt was a nun. But anyway, I don't know why there weren't any toothpicks in the nunnery. I didn't read the story, I only read Kurt Vonnegut's story about the story. So, try to think about other people as people, instead of as one-dimensional objects and foils for you. That's good advice, by the way, not only when writing, but also when trying to like get girlfriends and stuff. Like, honestly, if you want boys or girls to like you, the number one thing is to be able to imagine them complexly. If you can imagine like their desires and what keeps them up at night and all that, you can totally get them. It becomes like almost unfairly easy. But there's generally only 2 guys or 2 girls at every high school who are able to do that, and I don't know why. I wasn't, unfortunately, even close. Okay, we're going to do a writing exercise. So you have to have pen and paper. Or a computer. That's what I'm going to use, because I don't know how to write stuff with my hands. Does anyone not have a pen? Because then we can share. Does anyone have needs?
We can try to meet your needs.
We need, there's need.
Chocolate.
Everyone else is, don't be afraid to raise your hand if you
have a need.
If you have a need. I mean, let's try to keep it specific to the writing exercise. I don't want to like, get into sort of the broader desires.
Your needs in this particular context.
Exactly. Okay. So, trying to bear all that in mind as much as you can. By the way, you guys are going to hate me when this is over. I've never done this before, but I've always wanted to, and I thought this would be my opportunity. So, just get ready to hate me. Really hate me. Is everyone using paper, or is anyone using a computer? You're going to use a computer. That's fine, but you'll have a slightly different situation in a few minutes. Okay. I would like you to write a letter. Okay. And I would like you to write that letter. It cannot be from you. It really cannot be from you. It cannot be from some alter ego who is a lot like you, but a little bit different. It cannot be from you, and it cannot be to anyone you know. It can be from someone you know, but it can't be to them. It has to be to someone you don't know. Does that make sense? Okay, it's like a Venn diagram. You have to write a letter from someone who is not you to someone you don't know. That's the entire exercise. And I would like it if the person you're writing it from wants something, or someone, or something. I had a writing professor who said that all books were about sex or money, which I don't think is true. But at least sex and money are things that one might want. It is on the list of possible wants. But I would try to broaden that list if I were you in this letter. Now many of you may be thinking, I don't have any ideas. That's fine. Ideas are so overrated. Oh my God. Where did we come up with this stupid idea that ideas are important and you have to wait until the freaking idea fairy comes to your house with an idea? Occasionally there are books that have like really good ideas, but the ideas themselves aren't that creative. Like Vampires in Suburbia is a great idea, but it's not that creative of an idea. It's not like it's new or fresh. You don't need an idea. Just write. Think of a person who isn't you. There are a lot of them. Then think of another person who you don't know. There are a lot of those. And then write a letter. And wait. No cheating. Go. You have 20 minutes. That's the other thing. Thank you. 20 minutes. I'm going to do it too. Oh yeah, that's a good question. You can write letters between inanimate objects as well. It doesn't anything or person who is not you.